case goes to trial, we are going to see one of my favorite types of experts testify, handwriting experts. Let me break it down from what I know from covering so many murders. Okay, the first place we start is with a known sample. So this would be a known sample from me. So first they have to get a known sample from the person on trial. Then they're going to have the evidence. And then a handwriting analysis expert is going to take the known sample and compare it to the evidence. Obviously, the more words you have in your known sample, the better. I've seen in some trials, handwriting experts have small amounts of known samples. Like let's just say that one paragraph instead of all of it. Obviously, the more they have, the better. Okay, there's two things handwriting analysis experts will do. They will either say, this is conclusively written by the same person, or this was not. We did not find enough markers to match the known sample with the evidence. So it's kind of like there's a lot of markers or there aren't a lot of markers. Okay, some of the things a handwriting expert will point to. The slant. So my handwriting is pretty up and down. I don't slant too far right or too far left. Okay, so slant is something. Another thing is impression. How hard do I push the pen when I'm writing? And there's usually a consistent pattern that you'll see in someone's writing. They're either heavy-handed or light-handed, but that's something they're going to compare. The other thing is where letters break apart from other letters. So what they try to do is they'll try to take the evidence, let's say the word parasites, and then they'll look at the known sample and they'll look for common letters, a P, an A and an R. We'll look for that. If you don't have similar things, there's an S. Maybe there were two S's in parasites. You can compare the S's. But here's this would be a really good known sample because here's a rounded S and then here are two sharper S's. But one thing the handwriting expert would do, you see the little gap at the bottom of my S's? That is pretty consistent on those three, while there is no gap on the starting S. So then, but there's a gap on those, on that S, and things on that S. So what the handwriting expert would present to the jury is, okay, look, when the writer starts a word with an S, there's no gap. But what we've seen is when the S is at the end or in the middle of the word, we have a consistent gap. That gap is unique. Okay. And even if someone were to try to write like someone else, we've all tried to sign our parents' names, right? When we were in school on permission slips. You can even feel intention when you're trying to write like someone else. That is where the impression comes into play. When someone is trying to write like someone else, oftentimes the impression will be deeper and there will be more pauses and more breaks in the letters because you're looking at your sample and you're trying to copy it. It won't flow as easily. And then there's also characteristics of someone's writing. So some people cross their T's differently. Some people write, my G's always look like that. I hardly ever make the round loop of my G. Now here is an example, but that was in the word. It wasn't at the end. The end of my words, that G is always the same. So clearly they will want to have the biggest sample that they compare to so they can pick up on patterns. Patterns is really what you're looking for. And we all have like characteristics of certain letters. My G is a very specific thing. My W is going to go up. So we're going to probably look for other examples. Here's another one where my W goes up. Look at this W. My W goes up. Even in what, you can see how my W goes up to the H. So that would be a characteristic that the handwriting analysis expert would say, this person's W's go up, and we saw 3 examples of that in this evidence. Now keep in mind, the state will have their handwriting analysis expert. The defense attorneys will cross-examine that person and try to poke holes in their theory. Most likely, they don't have to, but they usually do. And then the defense can present their own handwriting expert to kind of say, you're a bad handwriting expert. This is what our handwriting expert says, okay? So there's a possibility that we'll see two different experts on handwriting analysis, since the police are saying we have the notebooks with the manifestos. And then there's a possibility we'll see ballistics experts. I am going to be fascinated with the ballistics experts. Those are the people who will be talking about the bullet casings, the striations, and proving the casings with the words on them came from the actual 3D printed one that was found on the person charged. Now, there's a lot of science still evolving about 3D printed these, because they don't mark bullet casings the same way metal ones do. So that's going to be a whole separate video. Now, over the years covering trials, I am obsessed with handwriting analysis, and not just matching handwriting samples with evidence, but the interpretation of the writer's mindset by their handwriting. And so if you go online and just watch some handwriting analysis of personality, it's really fascinating. I pay attention to people's signatures, because like for folks who write their signature and then draw a line back through their name, the thought is that that person is self-destructive. And like if they start their first name with a large letter compared to starting their last name with a large letter, they have an overinflated sense of self and connection to their first name, or sense of self and connection to their last name. And so it's common for women particularly to have a larger first name letter than their last name, because oftentimes their last name is not really how they identify more. So handwriting is fascinating. I really encourage you to look into it, and I cannot wait to see evidence that's been presented, because the handwriting does not lie.